Hey, everybody, this is Andy Hall. You're watching the show. Our guest today is Bertha Vazquez. She is the director for the Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science, otherwise known as TIES. Let you know a little bit about Bertha. Bertha Vazquez has been teaching middle school science in Miami-Dade County Public Schools for 30 years. 30 years. She has a BA in biology from the University of Miami and a master's in science education from Florida International University. A seasoned traveler who has visited all 7 continents, she enjoys introducing the world of nature and science to young, eager minds. An educator with a national board certification, she is the recipient of several national and local honors, including the 2014 Samsung's $150,000 Solve for Tomorrow contest and the Charles C. Bartlett National Excellence in Environmental Award in 2009. She also has a dog.
2
dogs. She has been the Miami-Dade Science Teacher of the Year 3 times in 1997, 2008, and 2017. She is the 2017 recipient of the National Association of Biology Teachers Evolution Education Award and is one of Florida's 2017 finalists for the most prestigious science award in the country, the Presidential Award for Science in Mathematics and Science Teaching. Hello, Bertha.
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm good. Hanging in there, embracing the stillness of the pandemic.
Right. Because you're a teacher. And how long have Florida schools been closed for?
Well, I think it was March 13th. We went into our classrooms to clean up, and it was like going into a twilight zone. I looked at my board and it said March 13th, and it had we were doing kilowatt hours and figuring out how much it costs to run a radio for a year and that kind of thing in physical science. And it was just so strange to see everything on the board and the classroom empty and the electricity labs on the counters and silence.
Wow. So since the physical schools closed, what have you been doing, or what has the school system been doing in terms of teaching students?
Well, I got to say, Miami-Dade County is huge. I think we're the 2nd or 3rd largest school district in the country. And within 48 hours from that Wednesday to Friday, we closed on a Friday, we made sure that 42,000 laptops were distributed to children that didn't have laptops at home. We made sure they got free Wi-Fi. And we also set up places where children could go and get their breakfast and lunch. The kids who were on free lunch, free breakfast, they got their breakfast and lunch. And I got to say that our superintendent, Alberto Carvalho, and his staff, and the way everybody organized and rallied I think we did better than the federal government by far.
I think without even knowing any of that, I think it would have been a safe guess on my part to think that you guys probably did a better job than the federal government at this point.
Yeah, but now we got to uniform it maybe starting next August if things continue this way, because everybody's using different media platforms and internet, Zoom or Crowdcast or Skype or YouTube, so that we need to maybe uniform it for August. But the way we jumped on it in 48 hours and got everybody settled down and equipped to go for online learning was pretty efficient.
That's very impressive. Now, are you doing virtual classrooms? Are you meeting with students individually? How is that working?
Both. I'm doing virtual classrooms. We are mainly using Zoom as most people. I use Crowdcast, but sometimes I teach and sometimes I just meet with the students and I say, okay, we're going to show off our pets, or we're going to play our instruments, our musical instruments, or you're going to show me your art that you've been doing, or show me the book you've been reading. Because what we're missing is that human connection. And kids, I don't know, I don't want to say kids need that more than adults, but teenagers, the age group that I teach, certainly need that. And next week we're doing a goodbye Zoom meeting where everybody can see each other's faces and say goodbye. It's just really hard on the kids leaving the school and moving on to different schools or not saying bye to their friends and stuff. But yeah, you know what's awesome? I've been using a lot. Mark Rober Do you know that guy? Everybody needs to subscribe to Mark Rober. I'm not making any money for this, but for example, the last one I just, you should have him on the show. The last assignment is he's building a squirrel-proof bird feeder.
Oh, well, that's a goal to have.
It's 20 minutes and you will be completely absorbed in this video that the guy is making. It's all science. I love it.
I'm intrigued. I've seen a couple of different models. There's sometimes a spinning top or there's some kind of spinning element to it to keep the squirrels from actually assaulting the feeder itself.
Oh, you're going to love this video. I think it's called How to Build a Squirrel-Proof Bird Feeder by Mark Rober.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, he should be on this show.
I will definitely send him a line after this.
Okay. I want to know what you think. You have to tell me.
Oh, I will, definitely. I will send you a message after taking a look at after talking with him and checking out the design. I am intrigued because, I'm not an exceptionally handy person, but if he can idiot proof it for this idiot, that would be an incredible accomplishment in and of itself.
See, as a science teacher, what you're looking for is people who make real life connections with their videos or their work or whatever. I'm always trying to bring in the real world into the science classroom. Science isn't about opening a book and looking at vocabulary words at the back of the chapters. And Mark Rober does that. And he does it in a very clever, funny way. But he's a genius. I think he's responsible. He worked on the Mars rover that landed on Mars. So he's no slouch.
Oh, right.
And once a week, he gave a lesson for physical science kids, like, do you weigh less after you fart? Stuff like that. What else did he do? He just did a bunch like that, and I just assigned his videos. The kids love them.
Oh, fantastic. So I'm going to ask you an unfair question. Using your mad ability to look into the future, what do you think school's going to look like in the fall?
Man, I'm a parent as well. I have a 15-year-old, and Miami-Dade County sent the survey. What do you want to see happening in the fall? I didn't answer. I got to say, I think one of the important points about being an intelligent person is that when you don't know the answer, you just go, I don't know. I don't know, Andrew. I have no idea what's going to happen. And I think once we have a vaccine in place, and it seems like that's moving fast because of the real need for it. It's kind of, to me, it's like the nuclear bomb. Albert Einstein said we weren't going to have a nuclear bomb for decades, and they got in like 2 years with the Manhattan Project because all the money and all the scientists. So it's going to happen faster than, I think, usual vaccines. But I have no idea. And I have colleagues who are even older than me with diabetes and other health issues. So, yeah, Governor DeSantis, my Florida governor, said we could open schools. Kids are immune to this. But the kids are teaching themselves. There's cafeteria workers and custodians and 60-year-old teachers with diabetes. What are we going to do? But if the kids don't go back to school, what are the parents going to do?
Yeah, it is a log jam of economic and social chaos. That's what it is.
Yeah, there's no easy answer, and I have no idea what's going to happen. That's my answer.
I think it shows a lot in one's character to say, I don't know.
Well, I got your T-shirt, Aspire to be less wrong.
You got to aspire to be less wrong. And that's all you can ever hope for. A lot of people don't like that idea because we all want certainty, don't we? We all want to know
Sure.
the facts, the immovable facts that will never change. And in a world of conditional truths, that's difficult. It's difficult to wrap your mind around.
The thing is, too, people are so, we can't help it. Our evolution gave us a lot, like a black and white mentality. Richard Dawkins calls it the tyranny of the discontinuous mind. And they want quick answers. And this is super complicated. I have no idea what's going to happen. When kids want black and white answers in my classroom, I say, explain baseball to me in one sentence. And of course you can't. Yeah, I've never heard of baseball. Explain it to me in one sentence. And they can't. I go, this is science. This is what's going on right now. This is climate change. You can't find an easy answer. And a lot of humans will just turn off if there's no easy answer.
The only easy answer are the wrong answers. Like, for an example, with baseball, cricket done wrong. Okay.
Oh.
That's an answer, but I don't think it really explains anything, to tell you the truth.
No, I saw cricket in South Africa last summer, and I thought the team losing was winning. They
That's
had all
great.
these points.
I still don't understand it. I could not tell you how. I know that there's like two, and there's a pitch, and there's a batter, but everything else is just chaos to me.
Well, we bought a guy a beer, and he explained it to us, so I can now explain cricket.
Oh, that's very impressive.
Yeah, you can't explain cricket in one sentence either.
No, 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 except in a really bad answer like baseball done wrong.
Yeah.
You know. So this is a good segue to talk about the Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science. For people who haven't heard about that, please explain the organization.
Okay. The history is actually pretty cool. Hold on. My mom is calling me. I'll turn her off. So what we do is we are it's totally nonprofit. It is a project of the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science, which is now part of the Center for Inquiry. We are a network of teachers, so we're about 75 teachers strong at this point, and we present to our fellow teachers, mainly middle school science teachers, but sometimes high school teachers, and we provide them with really good content on evolutionary biology and lots of free resources, including labs, online games, videos, etc. And because any unit as broad as evolution can be pretty overwhelming, what I did was I made a PowerPoint, and inside the PowerPoint, embedded in the PowerPoint is, okay, stop here and do this with the kids. Print this out, this little puzzle. Stop here, do this online game. Stop here, do this lab for data collection and analysis. So if you follow the PowerPoint, you're hitting all the curriculum standards of your state, or you're exceeding the curriculum standards of your state, because some states I don't even think the E word is there. Evolution.
Evolution, right.
Yeah, that's how the British say it. I was like, right on. Anyway, and if you complete the PowerPoint, you hit all the content, and you've got a bunch of awesome online resources. And then if you go to the TIES webpage, there is a link to all of our resources categorized by content standard, like natural selection, fossils, human evolution, etc. And so you can also pick and choose from there. We've done, since 2015, over 180 face-to-face workshops, including full-day events in all 50 U.S. states.
In all 50 U.S. states. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, all of them. And then, of course, since March 13th, we've had quite a few cancellations, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
That's normal. So what I did was, my first week here at home, I created a student-guided evolution unit. So it's also a PowerPoint, but the questions are right there. Okay, kids, watch this video, at timestamp this, what happens, what do you think is going to happen next, etc. Play this game, etc. And it's been downloaded. I made one for middle school science standards, evolution, and one for high school. It's been downloaded thousands and thousands of times.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so because teachers needed it, I said, okay, this should take about 2 weeks. It's about 6 hours of work. Here's your rubric. Here's your exam. And the kids do it, and then the teachers can receive it and grade it.
Have you ever gotten any trouble from the other side? We'll refer to them as the other side for this instance, about you going and doing your seminars and teaching teachers?
Very little. Very, very little. I got heckled in Ohio.
Oh, tell me about that. That sounds hilarious.
It was at I'm trying to remember it was a science teacher conference, and the room was packed. There was about 45 people in there. There were people standing. There weren't enough chairs. I did my thing. Hey, this is your great content. Here's your resources. Download it. It's all free. And when I finished, this guy raises his hand and says, you don't say anything in there about sin and hell. And I was like, what? Oh yeah, and you don't differentiate between creationist and creationism. And I was going through the Rolodex in my head going, I don't remember ever putting anything in there about creationism. And then he goes, and you call us animals. We are not animals. We are gods. And that's, oh boy, here we go. You know what happened? He kept pushing, right? This other guy across the room stands up and says, "Sir, I am an ordained minister. I have my own church. Leave this lady alone. If you want to talk about these things, I'll take you outside and we can discuss them. But she's not here to discuss these things with you."
Oh, that's fantastic. And you know what? It shows that a lot of churches here in the States do accept evolution as a real thing.
Sure. The National Center for Science Ed, I think, has a list of all the churches and letters from all the different religious leaders explaining it's okay. I actually think the majority do. And what's interesting is that it's so insidious, the minority that does not. They're so insidious that a regular Catholic kid in my class or Protestant or Jewish kid will actually raise their hands and say, "Am I allowed to learn this?" And yeah, and I hate going, "Yeah, you have permission from your church to learn this," because I just think you're not asked for permission to learn gravity. It drives me crazy. But they're not even sure because how insidious the However, over my years in the science classroom, that is diminishing.
Oh, that's great.
Actually, the number, I think, if you look at people under the age of 30, the acceptance of evolution goes up like 10%. And I attribute that to good science education. I attribute that to good science communicators like Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson. And to be honest, it's such a, I think that's why I don't have problems with creationists and stuff, is because it's such a beautiful way to see the world, evolution. I was raised Catholic, 13 years, and the answers weren't there for me. And to me, the deeper I dug, the less the answers made sense. And I read The Selfish Gene at the age of 18. Yeah. Oh, that rhymes. And I went, oh.
It was an epiphany for me, too. Yes.
I have an original British first edition.
Oh, really?
And Richard's a friend of mine now, so he actually signed it for me, which I was like,
I was going to ask you if he signed it. Yeah.
Yes. But I think what we are presenting in ties is just so interesting. And the cool thing is, the deeper you dig, the more it makes sense. That I don't see myself in competition. I just see this is the way it is. Here's the evidence. How cool is this? We are animated stardust. This is what happened across the millennia. And it's exciting and fun. And the kids, it's intuitive to them.
These people who are in a minority, these creationists or allies of creationists, I heard you say that they create an environment where teachers talk to their students. They teach to the cautious middle.
Oh, for sure.
Talk about that. I'm intrigued to hear about that.
Okay, so you have, and these are a number of studies done by different organizations. You have, I think, the top 20% of, and I'm talking high school biology now, I'm not talking middle school. I don't actually think we have good numbers on middle school. You have the top 10, 20% of biology teachers who do an awesome job covering evolution. And evolution should not be a discrete unit tucked into the end of the year. It's really the underlining theme of the whole science. It should be brought up constantly to tie all the concepts together.
Yeah.
Then you have a 13%, which is very depressing. 13% of high school biology teachers in our country espouse openly creationism in the classroom. That's, I don't even.
Are they older teachers?
I bet they are. That would be something, and I think there are some studies being done on that right now, about to come out about that. And then you have that middle, and that's what you called them, the cautious middle. Stephanie Keep of NCSE calls them that. This group, they're good teachers. They don't. Teachers, I think, by nature are non-confrontational. I certainly am. Yeah. And so they just want to get the job done and get home and get their kids to soccer practice on time. So they are going to avoid topics that cause confrontation in the classroom or cause confrontation with parents. So to me, the best way to combat that is to give them solid content and solid resources and also support. So for example, I always say I have to teach. I was just telling you, I have to teach about kilowatt hours and stuff like that. I didn't study that. I never studied. I think my last physics was like physics in high school. Yeah. So I don't feel very comfortable. The first year I taught electricity or rocks, I didn't feel very comfortable doing it. And I don't do as well a good a job. Now,
Yeah,
biology, my degree's in life science. I love biology. I love environmental science, climate change, and all that. And the kids are going to walk out of my classroom loving biology and feeling okay about physical science.
sure.
I you know, so if you can give the teachers the content, give them content, give them an understanding of the science, they're going to go back into their classrooms and teach with more enthusiasm, more passion, more confidence, and do a better job.
Yeah, what I like about your organization too is that you give pointers to teachers on how to deal with that vocal minority of creationists. You want to talk about
Yes.
that?
Yes, because to be frank, the teachers cannot decide what is taught in their classrooms. That
Yeah.
decision is made by the Board of Education of the state, and the teacher is to teach the standards, the evolution middle school or high school standards. So, for example, I'll give you what they are in Florida. In 7th grade, you should know that evolution is the underlying theme of the biological sciences. You should know that evolution is backed up by many lines of evidence, not just fossils, but homologous structures, vestigial organs, the law of superposition, etc. And you should know that natural selection is the primary mechanism for this change over time to take place. As kids hit high school, then you incorporate human evolution, different types of selection, different mechanisms for evolution to take place, like gene flow. So the teacher can't decide, it's decided for them. So when you get that email or that letter from the parent saying, I want you to teach, the creationist or the alternative point of view, the teacher doesn't have to even get into it. The teacher
Yeah.
simply has to say, hi, thank you very much for your email. The education's contents taught in this class has been set by the district and the state in accordance with blah, 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 blah. Back out of the argument and you're done.
Right.
That's what I would do, because I don't like confrontation. I cry if you scream at me.
Teachers don't go into the job thinking that they're going to be arguing like lawyers with parents.
It's awful. And climate change and evolution, those are the two times that and I have every year, not so much. Climate change is getting better too, but oh my God, the emails I used to get from parents about me brainwashing their kids about climate change, and those are the two areas. I assume next is like epidemiology and disease. Those guys are going to be joining our club soon.
Are the same people who are concerned about creationism or pro-creationists, are they also the same group who are anti-climate change or climate change deniers?
Yeah, a lot of them are. I think the climate change thing is more political,
Yeah.
and the creationism thing is more religious, but they do tend to hang out in the same side of the spectrum.
On the Venn diagram, this is
Yeah.
my visual here. I imagine there's quite a bit of overlap.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Tell me about creationist culture. I heard you use that term in a video.
Creationist culture.
There was an instance of a young man in one of your classes that refused to hear anything about evolution and turned his chair
Yeah.
around for how
Yeah.
long? It seemed like a long time.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. He was a Jehovah's Witness. So, I'm in Florida and I'm in a urban area, and my school is, most of the kids' parents are professionals.
Yeah.
It's about 80% Hispanic, but they're coming from other countries. They all have college. I don't think any of the parents of my kids have high school diplomas only. They all have advanced degrees. So I don't get a lot of it.
Yeah.
But every once in a while we get that. And Jehovah's tend to be very gentle about their pushback. They're not going to stand up. They're not going to slam a Bible on your desk. They're just not going to do the work for you.
Yeah.
So he basically calculated what things he had to do in my class to still get an A for the year. So he did the stuff like the natural selection labs and things like that, but because who can argue against bacterial antibiotic resistance?
Right.
But when it came to the big tests and the big ideas about evolution and everything, he just didn't do it, turned his back to me, and faced the wall.
That's crazy. From what I understand, and obviously I'm not a scientist and I'm not a teacher, is that a lot of people who say that they're creationists will say that there are changes within a species, but there's no such micro, right? But there's no such thing as an animal becoming a whole different kind of animal. That can't be true.
Yes, I had never heard the term microevolution versus macroevolution. I had to go look it up the first time somebody sent that email to me. I do get emails. They're very polite.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And I had to go look it up, and I realized that you just can't argue against bacterial antibiotic resistance. It's just like, it's right there. You can't. But because one species becoming another is less obvious to the average person, that's where they attack. And to be honest, there's hundreds of examples all over the world of what we call speciation, one species becoming another. But of course, it's that tyranny of the discontinuous mind. Their question is, so these two living things have an offspring, and the offspring is a different species from the parent? And so again, you can't explain baseball in one sentence. That means you have to sit the person down and give them a much more broad explanation of how speciation happens.
Yeah. I get the impression that some people think they get their ideas about evolution from like maybe Pokemon or maybe from the X-Men, the mutants in Marvel comic books. It's
totally.
Like that's not how it works.
No, it's hard. I think the best explanation, and again, to go back to Dawkins, he says, and I do this in my classroom because that question comes up, and it's fine that it comes up. Like, one of them I get a lot is, if humans came from monkeys, why are there still monkeys?
Yeah.
I say, well, if dogs came from wolves, why are there still wolves?
Right.
I want to say if Adam came from dirt, why is there still dirt? But I don't go there.
That's a red line right there, Bertha. You get a lot of emails that way. What I try to do is that I was thinking about using my hands. It's like, if you think about people and monkeys or apes, then somewhere down here is a common ancestor.
Yes.
And so that's how I've explained it to my kids.
Totally. Yeah. I make them do a little family tree. My brother's name is Louis. My cousin's name's Daniel. And I say, did I come from Daniel? No, but go up. Okay, here's my parents, and here's my grandparents. And my grandfather happened to be Daniel, too. And my uncle is Daniel, too, because there's no imagination in my family. But I say, you didn't come from your cousin. I didn't come from my cousin Danny. We both descend from Daniel, my grandfather. And so they each do a little family tree, and that's how we discuss that. The other thing is you tell them to time travel. You say, okay, take a human today, a 25-year-old healthy male, and send them back 1,000 years. Can he mate? Can he have babies with someone 1,000 years ago, assuming they're both healthy, whatever? Yes, he can. Okay, leave him there, poor guy. Now let's take a female back to 1,000 years earlier, so Jesus' time. And can she successfully reproduce with a guy back then? Yes. Now you keep doing that. You keep swapping generations back, sending people back. Yes, they're all going to be able to successfully reproduce. But there's going to be a point where that first guy you sent back, if you go back 1,000,000 years or 100,000 years, there's going to be a point where he cannot successfully reproduce. And I love ring species. Have you ever heard of the ring species?
I know about armadillos and lemurs. Like the ringed armadillo and the fuzzy-tailed lemurs there with the rings. That's about as far as my reference to ring-tailed species or ring species. So tell me about the real ring species as it gets to my babbling.
Ring species is more geographical. So there's this mountain, there's this valley in California, and it's surrounded by a mountain range, and there's salamanders all along the ring of this. And this salamander looks a lot like the salamander right next to it, and this salamander looks a lot like the salamander right next to it, and this salamander. And as you go around the ring, you see the changes, like a diffusion of changes as you go and see the different salamanders as you go around the ring. Seagulls as well. this seagull looks pretty close to the one that's 500 miles away, and then the one that's 500 miles away looks more like the one adjacent to it than the one 5,000 miles away.
Sure.
Those are called ring species, and you could see how the different species evolved over time, and it makes sense that they're more similar to their neighboring species than they are to the species clear across the globe or across the mountain valley. Because it's highly unlikely that a salamander is going to cross this huge valley and go clear across.
Oh, sure
but
enough.
It's possible that there might be some interspecies things going on, between the two right next to each other. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
I don't think I did a good job explaining that. Look up ring species and hear it from an evolutionary biologist.
All right, I'll look up. I'm going to put down the second thing I'm writing down besides Mark's name. It's ring species. Though I will say I was on the TIE's website earlier and I saw a video on why sloths are slow, and I feel like I can give an adequate explanation about why three-toed sloths are slow. So that just shows you the power of your site, my friend.
Yeah, kids love sloths.
Who doesn't like sloths?
Right.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? So we talked about, I was thinking about the monkey thing, about why are there still monkeys when, there are people. And do you think it's partly because of how the progress of evolution, that picture of how we start off with monkeys? I hate that
picture.
Tell me about your hatred.
You know what? I have it on a T-shirt. And I use it. The kids knew. The kids know I hate that T-shirt. And a student named Laura a couple years ago gave me a black T-shirt with it's called the Ladder of Progress.
Right.
And if you Google evolution, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get 100 pictures of that monkey and then kind of a Lucy-looking thing, and then finally get your upright human male.
Yep.
That is not how it works, but that is how people think. It's more like a family tree, like you said, like your hand. Mm-hmm. And so until we can get that picture out of the pop culture and out of people's, that's the first thing they think about when they think about evolution. They're starting from an error. They're starting from a mistaken understanding. We're going to keep struggling with this.
Yeah, definitely. So law, hypothesis, fact, and theory.
I teach that first week of school.
That is the first week.
Yeah, man, that's the first week. Because the first thing you do, and I do this in TIE's workshops too, I say put them in order by, and I never know the correct adjective, but put them in order by strength or importance or something like that. And
some kind of hierarchy.
Yes. And they stick fact at the top. And fact is the smallest one. It's fact, hypothesis, law, theory. I've yet to have a kid put them in the right order, or for that matter, a teacher.
Wow.
Yeah. And remember, middle school science teachers, we teach everything, so it's not really fair to. They're awesome teachers. They just don't necessarily know every content they have to cover. So a fact is a teeny tiny thing. Like there are 23 chromosomes in a human egg cell. It's tiny. Then a hypothesis is wonderful because I think that's how science works. It's a question that can be answered. It's a testable statement. It's not a question. It's a testable statement, which sometimes with the religious kids, you can stop right there. Is there God? I can't test that.
Yeah.
So, go ahead and talk to your parents about that and your religious leaders. But in science, we only deal with stuff that's testable. Russell's teapot.
Right.
Or the invisible pink unicorn that lives behind my sofa.
Of course. The dragon in the garage, all those things.
And so the hypothesis is not a big deal either. It's just one testable statement. And then you go to law. And I repeat over and over and over again. Laws describe, theories explain. Laws describe, theories explain. So the law of gravity describes gravity.
In a mathematical way.
And they could be very mathematical, yes. And then the theory of gravity explains why there is gravity. In order to explain it, you need the laws, you need the repeatedly tested hypotheses, thousands of them, and you need a ton of facts. And then I make their eyes get really big when I say, what is the theory in science with the most evidence behind it? And it's evolution. It's evolution. And I also say, okay, so something's wrong with your theory. Something's wrong with your car. You got a flat tire. Do you throw out the car? No, you change out the tire.
Yeah.
Gravity. We're still learning about gravity, especially at the ends of the universe and all that. So we might be tweaking the theory or laws, not the laws, but the theories of gravity.
Sure.
So you got that. That's the other one. You hit the two big misconceptions. The one that's the ladder of progress. That is very hard for teachers to get, wipe that out of the kids' brains. And the other one is it's just a theory. Even our vice president said that. It's in Indiana. He said it's just a theory. Well, yeah, it is, but so is gravity. I don't see anybody jumping off buildings, right? So
no.
If those two, if you ask science teachers what are the two greatest misconceptions when it comes to evolution, that's them right there.
Now I'm going to ask you another unfair question because I guess that's what you do. That's what I do. Have you noticed any differences since this particular administration has taken office in terms of science education?
No. And I think I have to be fair and say no, because education is at a state by state level. We don't want to talk about Betsy DeVos, but she's doing other things that are not great for public education. But in terms of curriculum, decisions on curriculum and stuff like that, that's at the state level. Yeah. And I've actually seen some improvements. Like Oklahoma, for the first time, has now included the E word and climate change in their standards.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
They always taught change over time.
Right.
And in some states, that's how we do ties. We just use the quote change over time. But now they've actually used the word and climate change, which I think is super important. So yeah. There's constant struggle. The state of Florida is a perfect example. A friend of mine named Brandon he's a great guy to interview. He wrote a book called Going Ape, and it's the history of the evolution creationist battle in the state of Florida. And it's very representative of many states. It's a great book. And we're still fighting today. He has an organization called Florida Citizens for Science, and they're a watchdog group that keeps an eye on all the crazy bills going through our capital, our Tallahassee.
You know what I found interesting when I was looking at one of your videos about how that side has morphed over time from creationism to creationist science.
They're evolving, Andrew.
They're evolving, that's right. But they're micro evolving, Bertha. That's what they're doing. And intelligent design was the last iteration I was aware of, but it seems to have mutated into another term.
Academic freedom.
It makes me feel like I want to invade Iraq for a third time. I don't know why.
Yeah, actually, intelligent design still comes up a lot. Yeah. And actually, a lot of the same arguments still come up a lot. So yes, they called it creationism. That didn't work. So then they called it creation science, and that didn't work. And then they called it intelligent design. And in 2006, that wasn't supposed to work. And now it's since they can't win through the court system, they're just giving teachers should have academic freedom to introduce alternative theories to the students. It's a beautiful term. It's insidious. They're not discussing, the difference between Stephen Jay Gould's ideas of punctuated equilibrium or kin selection. It's introducing religion and intelligent design into the classroom.
Right, because who would be against freedom? That'd be crazy. You gotta love that marketing. You gotta love those marketers.
So the flag and they do market.
What kind of conversations have you had since COVID-19, the coronavirus is here? You're obviously really smart about kind of evolution and about how pathogens spread. What kind of conversations have you had with people about masks or no masks or about social distancing?
A lot, and it's nice. People look at you like, oh, you're a science teacher. You must know these things. And like I said, I don't know a lot of things, but I had a conversation about masks. Whoa, so they don't really work and this and that. I go, okay, buddy, let's say it works 50% of the time. You have 1 million people. 500,000 people just did not get the virus. Now track those 500,000 people. So it's only 50% of the time, but that's huge. It's 50% better than. Imagine if your stock portfolio went up 50%, right?
Yeah,
So
that'd be pretty sweet.
it's 50% better than nothing.
Yes.
And again, we go back to the tyranny of the discontinuous mind. It's not black and white. It's not going to protect you 100%, but it's sure as hell going to protect you better than nothing. Right?
Yes, I came up with this insight the other day. It isn't just the fact that we live in a country with the haves and the have-nots, but we live in a country where we have the maths and the maths not. And there's just this population that just don't understand things like statistics, like how even just 50% effectiveness will help an incredible amount over not wearing a mask at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not black and white.
No.
I also had, by the way, I've had to, of course, adapt to this era of the pandemic. And so I've been doing weekly webinars for teachers and students with different scientists. And Dr. Mark Reimers of Michigan, he did the evolution of the coronavirus for us.
Oh, really?
And yeah, that was a very well attended webinar about a month ago.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah. And it turns out it doesn't evolve that quickly compared to the flu, let's say. So a vaccine will probably be, for coronavirus, will be much more effective than that flu vaccine that they have to kind of speculate every year.
Right, because every year they have to figure out what strain is going to be the most prevalent, and then get a vaccine that basically addresses that strain. But that's really good news, actually, is that coronavirus doesn't change as much as a regular flu virus. So that's good news.
Yeah, we'll see. They're still learning.
Oh, yeah, right. Tell me about your grandfather and the polio vaccine.
Isn't that awesome? Okay,
that is awesome.
When I got this job, this is about evolution and teaching and curriculum and stuff, but I realized that I was moving in this world of skeptics, and in many cases atheists and critical thinkers and things like that. And so I think it gives me all of the credibility that I need to be the director of the Ties Institute. That my grandfather, we have this picture which is in a museum here. He was a pediatrician in Cuba, and when the polio vaccine was developed, I believe it was 1955.
That sounds right.
Yeah. We have a photograph of him standing next to another doctor opening the very first box of polio vaccine entering Havana, Cuba. And it was like, okay, there's my credentials right there.
That's a great story.
Yeah, and my husband's grandfather had polio and had
really?
His arm was paralyzed. And that's one of those pictures I think we should show when people are anti-vaxxers, is all those poor kids with the iron lungs lined up in the hospitals. And we're so used to all of our kids making it, these days, barring car accidents and that kind of thing. We've forgotten what it was like to live.
What I found interesting is one of my ex-wife's friends, her kid had whooping cough, but the thing is nobody knew it was whooping cough because people have forgotten what it sounds like.
Yes. I recommend an HHMI movie called Calling the Shots, and it's all about vaccines. And they do such a beautiful, impartial, job of talking to the anti-vaxxers, talking to doctors, talking to epidemiologists. And yes, it begins with somebody with whooping cough, a little baby in Australia who was too young to get the vaccine. So he relies on the rest of us. He was like a week old. He relies on the rest of us. It's the herd immunity thing. Yeah. They show somebody with, if he has a high fever, he gets seizures. Mm-hmm. And of course, a lot of times vaccines can cause a fever. So again, his parents rely on the rest of us to be vaccinated so the poor child doesn't have seizures.
Yeah. Wow. So Bertha, we're coming towards the end of our time together. Is there a question you wanted me to ask you? Was there a topic that you wanted to talk about, but we didn't get to in our time?
No. No. Well, I'd love for people to follow the Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science on Facebook. We have a Twitter account. Check out our page. You can buy T-shirts.
Awesome.
So there's the question. I'm working backwards. It's like Jeopardy. How can you support the Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science? You could support us by making a donation, even if it's $5, or buying a mug or a T-shirt or something, and because we rely completely on donations.
Because it's a nonprofit organization, and so it's all tax deductible.
Yes. So it's tieseducation.org.
Fantastic, because it's a great organization with doing great work and really on a grassroots
Totally
kind of level, which we don't see enough of, I think, in the skeptic movement.
Yeah.
Fantastic work, Bertha. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
If you ever have anything new, contact me. And thanks again